Lesson 9, song number 1, easy fingerstyle songs for beginners. We're going to be working on just some concepts of changing the chords, which is probably the most difficult part of playing the guitar, is changing the chords, and I'll give you some helpful tricks and hints. Here we go. Time and time again, everybody says that the hardest thing to do when first learning the guitar is changing the chords. And it's not only a matter of changing them, but when to change. And in finger picking for beginners, I'm hoping that you've taken that course. If you haven't, I suggest you go back and learn that, because that talks a lot about when to change the chords and how to get ready to play the next one. Okay? And playing the guitar is almost like playing chess. You've got to think a couple of moves ahead before you make your first move. And the guitar is really no different. You got to know where you're going. You got to have that in your head to be able to get there, and that really helps. So for all you non-chess players, I'm going to try to map it out for you here. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this, because on the follow-up with this course, where we're going to play the song together at different tempos, we're going to be working on that a lot. So I just want to give you a brief overview. But let's just take 4 measures at a time. Okay, we're going to go from measures 1. Okay, and I hope you're looking at your study guide and you have that in there. And I don't have my study guide with me. I'm in my basement of my house, and I'm not at the studio where I printed out the study guide and forgot to take it home. But I'm sure you could find it in there on whatever page it's on, the whole song. Okay, so measures 1 through 4, we have the A5, measures 1, measure 2, and then we have, this is where we change to the first chord, E minor. And if you remember in finger picking for beginners, when we hit that E note, the 6th string, we have a little bit of a grace period before we have to go ahead and change the chord with our left hand. So that this is measure 2, E minor, and then I'm kind of just easily sliding my hand over there because I have a millisecond of time to be able to get there. So you could just pounce right on it when the chord. This would be an example of pouncing right on it. This is measure 3 into 4. Okay, that's one way to do it, or you can do it like this. Okay, and that's the way that I do it. I kind of glide through the chords. When I have a little time, I'll keep my hands on there as long as possible. And the idea is to let the strings ring as long as possible. So the longer I can keep my fingers on in a position, the better. So I'm just kind of gliding over there. 3, measure 3. Now measures 4 going into measures 5, I have to have our first note is this open A note on measure 5. So I have to have this E minor chord, we've got to be over with before we hit that first beat. So this is measure 4. Measure 5. I have to have my fingers off. Now I don't necessarily right at that very moment have to be on the A5 chord, because again we have an open note and we have these the A5 chord that we have to get to, but we're already kind of in that position. So kind of watch between, I'm going to play measures 4 into 5 and watch when I'm changing the chord, okay? That's the best way to describe it. So here's 4. Okay, again. Okay, so I made sure that my finger was off of it for that first note. My fingers were off the guitar on the left hand for the first note. but then I had a little bit of time to go ahead to form the A5. Okay, so if we go all the way, now it's just exactly the same thing up to measure 8, and then we have that G chord. And we have that one note, that B note. This is the B note here, although we're not playing that note. Okay, because somebody asked me that question. We're not playing that note. The finger needs to be there because we're going to go ahead and form the G chord. Okay, so if we have that finger already there, why move it? We're thinking ahead like we're playing chess here. So we know we're going to have to do that. It would be silly to take it off and then have to put it back again another millisecond later. So this is measure 8. And this time we have to be right on time with that G note. So let me just go measure 8 into 9. And that's what we're doing. Okay, now just as a little hint there, you could see that if I'm just keeping my finger down and I'm pressing, you know, when I'm pressing that E minor chord, you could see that this finger here, my middle finger, is not all the way up here because my fingers are too big. I would have to have pencils for fingers in order to have them exactly, you know, perfectly like this. And that would be the wrong way to play with your fingers like this. You can see that I have to have to play the E minor chord, I have to have this finger down here. And you're going to have to press a little harder because the further away you are from the fret, the harder you have to press. So what I'm doing is to go ahead to reach that G chord. When I'm going and lifting this finger off for that open note that I've told you about, that D note that we're playing, I'm not necessarily only stretching my hand. I'm actually moving my middle finger closer to the fret while I'm doing that. So okay, did you see how I kind of slid it up a little bit to get to that G chord? Okay, because if my finger's way back here, boy, that's a big stretch. That's even too much for me. So what I do is I just kind of cheat it up there before the chord happens. Now, it makes kind of an ugly sound. But if you're a little bit quiet and you're not pressing so hard, you don't have to keep the pressure on this finger all the way. You just have to move it into position. And remember, the pressure can go down a little bit. Now, if you're back here, you have to press harder. So when I'm back here and I move it up here, you don't have to press as hard. See how I'm sliding a little bit? And I have to be right on that G note, on the six string, 3 frets up. I have to be right there because that's our bass note. So one more time and try to play this with me. Okay? All I'm doing is I'm repeating measures 8 and 9 together. See how I slid it up into position? Okay, you want to make sure that your fingers are arched and your thumb is in the right position. That was a good example right there. I did that pretty perfect, okay? And I didn't hear too much string buzz, squeaking. When you go back and forth on the strings, it creates squeaking. I'm not saying that's the worst sound in the world, but it could be a little ugly if there's a lot of it going on, you know? Okay, so that was measures 8 into 9. Now we're going to be doing measure 10 into 11, which is the G chord. The G chord into the D sus. So this is 10 and 11. So we're on G, the G chord, measure 10. And I'm sorry, I was playing 9 and 10. Here's 10 and 11 together. Okay. Really, this is just a matter of just getting your hand coordinated to be able to go back and forth. And you do have that open D note. And the open D note, you don't have anything playing on with the G chord. Okay, you don't have anything playing on the G, playing meaning fretting anything on the G chord to worry about that. Okay, that note, lifting on or off because it's an open note. But what you will notice is the last note of measure 10 is also the first note of measure 11, meaning that you play that note twice. D and then D again. So you have a little bit of time because it's an open note, and your finger on your thumb on your left hand is already right there. Watch where my thumb goes in the last note of measure 10. It's right there, so I just hit that twice. Okay, does that make sense? I hope it does. Watch my thumb, hit the D and then hit it again. And on the left hand you have a little bit of another millisecond again because it's an open note to go ahead to form your chord. So I didn't move my hand anywhere, it was already in position, I just left it there. Just playing a little chess on my guitar here, okay? Okay, so the last little part here for chord changes is the measure 12 to 13. Okay, and then we're hitting the A note. Measure 13, right there. So 12 is, and then 13 is your open A note, and you have a little bit of time to go ahead to form that A5 again. And then 14. Okay, we're going to get into this a little bit more in detail, although I think I've covered it pretty good. And as far as changing chords, just watch this video, rewind this, go back and forth of any problems that you're having changing chords, and pay particular attention to not only how I'm moving my hand, okay, but when I'm moving it. Because on the guitar, when you do things is very important. So if you're doing it, at the right time, that's going to be the best thing for learning how to change chords properly. So I hope this helps, and I will see you in the next video.